David Waldman, welcome to bluesharmonica.com.
Oh, thanks, David.
It's one of the great pleasures of doing bluesharmonica.com, and I've always wanted to do this for years, is catalog the great players across our nation and across the world. Really, there's great players everywhere now. And there was no one cataloging this. And whenever I would be talking to players who were in the know about players, especially when I first started doing my masterclass workshops in the early 90s, I was talking to players like Hummel and just players who were touring on a regular basis and say, throw me some names of regional players that I might not be hip to just because either their recordings aren't here in our local area or maybe they haven't recorded much. And your name always came up about the Chicago players, so it's a pleasure to sit down and talk to you.
Well, it's nice to be here.
So let's get started in the common fashion of because you don't have a lot of recordings on the market, I would like our students to become more familiar with you as a player, what your history as a player is, because you've played with some very, very well-known names. So just share with us your upbringing on the harmonica, when you started, who were players that were helpful along your journey, and also some of the bands that you played in, maybe some recordings we can hear you on. Then we'll go ahead and dig into some of the technique.
Okay, well, I guess I started playing harp when I was in 8th grade. I started playing harp and guitar at the same time, and I had that Tony Glover book, and I sort of read it, and it sort of assured me I wasn't doing anything radically wrong, which
That's good.
except that he said get a Marine band, as I recall, and I did get a Marine band, and but it was a 12-hole Marine band, and I didn't realize that. So, I was wondering why does my sound why do I sound so much lower than these records?
And was this the low octave one, or is this a solo tuned 12-hole? Do you remember the tune?
It was. I think it was the low. It was
low
the low
C or low G or something. Okay.
And but for some reason, my harmonica playing didn't really take off for a while. The guy that he recommended was Rice Miller, and I got that down and out blues, and I really didn't like it that much. So and then I guess for about 3 years, 2 or 3 years, I just listened to nothing but pre-war blues. I sort of went off into that. And then when Fathers and Sons came out, I heard it on the radio, and I could appreciate good blues piano, and Otis Spann was prominently featured on that, and I really liked that, so I picked that up, and then I thought, well, I'd like to, I like Muddy Waters, I'd like to learn more about Chicago blues, and then I got Hate to See You Go, and I really thought that was great. And that's when I started to get more into post-war blues and to focus more on playing harp. Mm-hmm. But I knew I was doing something wrong. I played by puckering, and I learned how to blow octaves, but I played single notes by puckering, and I guess I was in my first year of college, and Paul Osher had left the Muddy Waters band, and he put an ad in the paper and for lessons, and I took lessons from him, and he told me about tongue blocking. I just had a couple lessons from him, but he told me that all important information that about blocking the notes out with your tongue, and so I started doing that, and that really made a major improvement, I thought. And let's see, and then after college, or at least after some of my college, I moved out here to Chicago, and I started going to clubs, and there was a club at 40th in Indiana, and that's where called Morris Brown's Lounge. It had originally been called Turner's. I think there's a picture of it, and that's of J.B. Hutto playing there in that book, The Story of the Blues by Paul Oliver. Mm-hmm. And that's where I met people like Willie Anderson, and I think Lester Davenport, and it was Jimmy Lee Robinson, the guitar player, and a lot of people. Willie Williams had a regular gig there. He was a drummer. He put out that song Winehead Woman. And I guess I really didn't, I would sit in places, but I didn't get into a regular band until 1980 when I got into two regular bands. Big Smokey Smothers made a comeback. He had been sort of an alcoholic for a while, and he stopped drinking. And my friend Illinois Slim got him a gig at Blues, and I started playing with him. And Steve Cushing also played drums in the band. And then at the same time, I got hired by Eddie Taylor. I used to go, not Eddie Taylor, Tail Dragger. Mm-hmm. I used to go out to the West Side, and Tail Dragger had Big Leon Brooks playing with him. He was a great harp player. And, so I would sit in there, and then Big Leon had some heart trouble. I think he had to go into the hospital for open heart surgery. And I guess Tail Dragger was sort of willing to take a chance that, if he hired me, I would actually show up for the gig. And so I did. And I started playing with him. There might have been a little interval where Lester Davenport was playing harp. But I'm not sure between Big Leon and me. But, that's... So I was playing with these two bands, and we would play a matinee show at Blues, the Club Blues on Halsted, from I think it was like was it 5 to 9 or 5 to 8, or maybe it was even maybe it was earlier than that, 4. I forget when it started, and then I think Walter Horton would play after us. And then I'd take a cab out to the West Side, and I'd play with a Tail Dragger till like 2 or 3 in the morning. And we had both of the gigs were really great. Just all sorts of musicians would come out of the woodwork, sort of traditional Chicago blues musicians. I mean, people like, that you may never have heard of, like Arthur Railhead Saunders. He was a guitar player from Gary. Middle Walter, that was a harp player from Gary. Doc Terry showed up one day from St. Louis. Just everybody. It was really great.